Hi, I'm Christine McDonald from Rushing River Apiaries, and today I'm going to be sharing a bit about Randy Oliver's Varroa mite calculator. It is an incredible tool that I think has the power to be really empowering for beekeepers, backyard beekeepers included, to start to build mite strategies that are well informed and that they can feel confident in. There's a massive amount of work that went into this model. Every time you input a number, it's doing over 150 calculations. You can customize it to suit your location, the type of hive that you have, even the amount of mites that might come into your hives from your neighbors, the type of queen you have, if you're getting a queen that is bred for Varroa resistance. All of that can be factored into this, and you can start to see the impact of the mite treatments that you're choosing across the year, and how that's impacting your hives. So again, this is not my work here. This is the incredible work of Randy Oliver. This is his website, scientificbeekeeping.com, and I would encourage you to download your own version of this model that you can get from his website right here, Randy's Varroa model, and it just runs in Excel. There is somewhere on here too, you can find an HTML version that runs online, but this one definitely has more potential customization. It is very worthwhile for beekeepers to learn how to use this tool, and that's what I hope that you will come away with today after this video. Randy does, by the way, have his own tutorials that are awesome. That's what I watched to get me started here. I'm going to show the applications that I think have a lot of potential for backyard beekeepers in looking at this. So a couple things to get it set up for yourself. These green cells over here are where you can customize some of the factors that go into every calculation. For one, you can customize the hive type. Now, when you first get it, it's going to have a D in here for default. I know, and I know from looking down here at this colony types, that I don't live in the default kind of region. I live in high latitude. We have a short summer and we have quite a long winter brood break. And in that high latitude colony type, they've factored in 5 months of the year where there's not a lot of brood growth and not a lot of foraging. So that's what will reflect my hive best. So I'm going to put a type B in there. And those winters help out with our mite strategies. People definitely have it harder in a place where you don't get that winter brood break. The mite population, I'm going to leave this at 100 right now. That's what I expect our colonies are at coming out of winter because we do oxalic acid vapor treatments over the winter. I expect we're coming into this new year with fairly low mite levels. You can change this number, and we are going to change it as we go through kind of this little bit of tutorial, but for now I'm going to leave it at 100. The other thing that you can customize is this mite immigration. This is meant to reflect how many mites might be moving into your hive from neighboring hives. So if you are the only one that has hives within flying distance and you treat them all the same, then you're going to be at kind of a level 1 here. That means that all hives are being treated and you shouldn't expect to see a big bump up in mite population because of immigration. I happen to have a lot of neighboring hives that I don't think treat their mites kind of as aggressively as we do. So I am going to put this at a 2, and that's going to show up kind of in the late summer when robbing is happening, and it's going to make these numbers climb higher faster, and that's what is really realistic for us where we're at. So I'm going to leave this as it is right now. Now, if you are coming into spring and you don't know that your mite count is going to be starting at 100, the way that you can adjust this so that you're starting out at a realistic place is you want to use your first mite test of the year. So let's say the 1st of April, you do an alcohol wash. That's what these little white boxes are meant to show. They're meant to show your alcohol wash results. So in half a cup of bees, that's 300 bees, how many mites are going to show up? April 1st, this says there should be 1 mite in your half a cup of bees in your mite wash. If it's April 1st and you do your mite wash and there are 3, then you want to adjust the model so that that's your starting point. That's what's going to make this whole thing realistic. And you do that by playing with this number here. No, it's not perfect. It does just take a little bit of playing around, but I happen to know that putting a 300 in right now will bump that to a 3. See, if we were doing it the 1st of March, we would have adjusted a little bit differently, but we're going to make this 3. And then as you input your treatments after that, you're starting from reality. Okay. So for now, I'm going to go back to 100. We will be changing this number again. It's an important one to know kind of where it is and what it symbolizes. So if I zoom back out here a little bit, now this you're looking at now is a typical colony with no treatment in it at all. Okay. The big yellow, under the big yellow line is your adult bee population. The more orangey is your capped brood population. This blue line is your Varroa mite population. And then this is the crash of doom where your colony is no longer surviving. So we definitely want to get rid of that, but we want to do even better than get rid of it. We want to have bees that are healthy and thriving across the year. So the way that we use the model is we input our treatments in the yellow boxes here according to when we do them. Okay, so I'm going to start with what I think a really typical beginner beekeeper mite strategy is, and that is to treat in the fall after your honey supers come off. I think that's what a lot of us learn in our beginner bee courses. What we might learn from a mentor is, oh, don't forget to put your fall mite treatment on. And that's about the extent of it. And so we Google mite treatment, we order something in, we put it in our hive, and we expect everything to be fine. Okay, so let's show what that's going to look like. So we're going to say after the honey supers come off, so we'll go 1st of September is when we're going to put this in. If we scroll down here, here are a ton of different mite treatment options, and in black how effective they are. So the expected mite reduction. It's this percent number that we're going to put in the yellow boxes. So let's say you order some Apivar in the mail for your mite treatment. That's 95. It's as good as it's going to get. Okay. So on September 1st, we do an Apivar treatment, 95. Okay. And look at that. Our mite numbers are, we've avoided the crash of doom, right? And it looks like we're doing okay. But now we want to look at this ending mite number, which is, let me move it, 335. That means that we're starting out next year not at 100 anymore. We're starting out at 335. I think this is a really, really common scenario for beginner beekeepers. You think you have done everything right. You treated for mites in the fall. You came through most of winter, you passed Christmas into the new year, you start to see maybe the first orientation flights and some cleansing flights, and then suddenly your hive is dead. And that's because that one fall mite treatment is no longer enough. And it's sad that it's still taught. I think that beekeeping instructors and mentors want to keep things simple in an effort to encourage you. But at the same time, it's not empowering you with the information you need to keep your bees alive. So we need to do better than one fall mite treatment. Okay, so we're going to go back. I want to kind of reset things here. So I'm going to go back to 100 for our starting treatment, and I'm going to show you what our mite strategy looks like. over the past couple years. Okay, so again, I'm doing the starting number at 100 because I know we did an oxalic acid vapor just right into the new year. So I would expect that this is going to reflect reality here, that our starting mite numbers are 1 or 2. Now, what are we going to do with that? We're going to do a spring mite treatment sometime before we do our splits. We do our splits the last week of April, so we want to get a treatment on before we make those splits. We don't want to be giving away nukes with mites. So in here, we are going to put a formic acid treatment. So if I scroll down here, there's 2 options. 2 formic propads or 1 formic propad. We're going to go all in with 2. That means we're getting between 70 and 90%. I'm going to shoot for the middle. I don't want to be too optimistic. I would rather err on the side of realism when it comes to mites. So there's our formic treatment. That keeps us nice and low going into our main honey production time of year, but we can see that it's not enough to get us out of the year. We don't see the big crash, but you know you're going to see the crash once we carry that end mite number over. Okay, so we need to get something else on here. So we're going to wait until we pull our honey right around the middle of August, and then we're going to throw Apivar in here. And I remember that the efficiency or the effectiveness of Apivar was 95. We're going to put that on. Now, we've avoided the crash of doom. Let's see if this will carry us through the year. So here's this 298 number. We're not 100 anymore, so we're going to change this to 298. Okay. And that does look sustainable. If we continue to do that, we're going through the year without the crash of doom. But holy man, there's not a long way off between these high numbers around 9. I don't like to see those in a mite wash when I'm doing it. Even 5 or 6 is too many to me. So I want to knock those winter mite counts down. And I'm going to do that. We're into our broodless period now with oxalic acid vapor. So if I look down here, again, we have a couple options for oxalic. So dribble or vapor, and then when broodless or when the hive contains brood. And we're going to do this when it's broodless. We only use our vapor in the winter. So 80 to 95. So we're going to split the difference here. And we're going to do 1 around Halloween. So 87 is kind of right in the middle there. That knocked us down really nicely so that we have an ending mite count of 42. That's more like it when I bring that over here. Those are numbers that it's nice to go into winter with. Now, what we usually do, because we're not 100% sure that we're totally broodless at that time of year, is we throw another one on sometime around the solstice. So you'll see that this doesn't change too much because we're already so low with our mite counts, but that gets us through. Now we have a mite carryover of just 5. That gets us through the whole year with very low mite numbers. Okay, so that's what our current mite strategy looks like. And that's not to say that this is what you need to do. The amazing thing about this tool is that you get to plug in all these numbers and move them around and find what's going to work for you and for your hive. There's lots of people who don't want to use the synthetic treatments, so we can get rid of the Apivar and see how that's going to work. You might make it right from your spring formic into your fall oxalic acid if you have a short summer, long winter like we do. But the fall weather, there's so many little factors that can't be accounted for in a model that could cause your numbers to spike. Okay, we're going to reset here again. And I'll show you a couple other customizations because I know that there are a lot of beekeepers who would either are or would love to be treatment free, or to avoid any of the chemical treatments, including the organic ones. And also beekeepers who use bee stock that is meant to have some Varroa resistance built into it. Either they have Varroa sensitive hygiene, or they are certain bee breeds that have some built-in resistance. So there's a way to factor that in as well. So let's just have a look before I do it at this climb here. So we go like 3, 4, 6, 10, 17, 24, peaks at 54, and then that crash happens in mid-October. Okay. That's with regular bee stock that is not assumed to have any kind of Varroa resistance built in. If you have stock that you trust, and this takes some faith until you really get a handle on several years of survival, then you can account for that over here. So we're going to do it by changing this number right there. So it says here, change it to a 50% reduction if you have really strong resistance. So that's like for the best case scenario. Okay, so we're going to change it. First we have to type custom in here, and that lets us change these numbers, and we're going to bump that one to 50%. Now, is that going to be enough to save you from needing to treat your colonies? Well, it sure brought it down, right? Now there's a year of treatment free with very highly resistant stock. But look, our end mite count is still 366. So when we put that in here, 366, we're still going to get that March crash. So even with the best stock that is available right now for Varroa resistance, according to this model, and of course you are going to run into people who have bees who have survived treatment free. You're going to run into far more who have bees who have not survived treatment free. Okay, this is like median data based on a model. Very informative, but obviously it's not going to tell you 100% of the cases. Okay, so we still see that crash unless you start to input some kinds of Varroa control. Now, there are other options, but they take work, arguably more work than a treatment. Let's see, we have a single powdered sugar dusting. Okay, so that gives you a mite reduction of 25%. You could do one of those a month, and every month you're knocking down your Varroa by 25%. Complete removal of drone broods. So if you're trapping drones, you can do that every 24 days through, it really only counts in like the spring period, but you could do it 2 or 3 times in the spring, and that would give you a reduction of between 15 and 20%. You can also do brood breaks. So you either split the colony and make both parts of the split raise their own queen. That gives them about a month brood break. Or you can cage the queen for a month to give that colony a brood break. That gives you a pretty good reduction of 50 to 55%. So with our resistant stock in here, let's see if that would be enough. So we'll go back to starting at 100. Okay, so what if we did a brood break or split right in May? That knocked it down a little bit. We could also throw in some drone trapping across the year. So I think drone trapping was about 20, and sugar treatments were 25. So if we did those 2 things, oops, I didn't mean to do that, paste. If we want to copy them, if we do those once a month through this summer period, can we get that end number down to 231? See, these are, and this, I'm not trying to encourage anyone to go treatment free. I am by no means advocating that, but I'm just showing you one of the ways that you could play with this model if your goal is to reduce the chemical treatments that you want to put in into your hive. So look, we've come up with something more or less sustainable here. 231, 233, we're starting and ending with the same number of mites. So that to me is a sustainable practice. Okay? So we're going to take this back to 100. I'm going to get rid of all these treatments. And if you have done the playing around with resistance, make sure, where to go, that you also change that back, because that can really mess you up if you forget that it's in there. We do not have particularly resistant stock, so I'm going to put that back to 10%. And there, we're back to kind of a baseline that we can play with. I hope that this video doesn't scare you away from using the model and, you know, treating for mites strategically across the year. It definitely is more complicated than I think most of us learn in our introductory classes, or from our, you know, first mentors as we get started in beekeeping. But it's possible. You can keep bees alive year after year if you are intentional and strategic with your Varroa testing and treating. And ideally, that's going to include some
high glucose.
Like some non-chemical options, and if you're comfortable with it, some chemical options. Together, those are going to help your bees to thrive across the year. So I hope that you will download this model and play around with it. Let me know if I can help in any way or clarify anything for you as you start to put your own numbers in and see how it all shakes out. And thanks for watching.